Truth be told, when I wonder what the future holds, it takes me out of the present. New moon waxing, full moon waning, crescent. Life cycles, teammates or rivals. Soul search, dangerous World War III, the goal's always survival. That's nature, day you're born when you meet your maker. Tears start chasing paper, burning trees or melting glaciers. But truth be told, when I wonder what the future holds, it's impossible to process, so I stay focused on my progress.
Yes, people. 2026 is in full effect. That's 2 weeks, 2 times in the middle screen. The way it's meant to be. Get me? Go and watch the no trim, winter settings and that. But yeah, you man, what you said, you good? Especially you, Ark. You had a good, strong finish to the Christmas. But like I said, 2026 now is what matters.
Is that a Winter Soldier and all that, yeah?
All right. I understand.
Okay. We shall see. We shall see.
This week was a bit tight. Why for that? But like, Guffs was only 1 point behind. You just can't do it, can you? You just can't get into the middle screen. No matter how much you try. 1 point away. Must have been heartbreaking, but hey, it is what it is.
Well, yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? It is what it is. You know, you got to roll with the punches sometimes, you know? Life throws lemons, you make lemonade. You know what I'm saying? So we move on. You know what I mean?
Okay, B.
Well, look, it's getting a bit of a broken record now where man says, yes, the battle between us is nice, but we all want to do better in the overall leagues. So it's not, the bragging rights is jokes between us, but in reality, I'm not happy. But yeah, it's nice to be back in the middle though. I'll be lying.
Just like curiosity, what will make you happy? Being top? Anything else make you happy? I mean,
apprentice, FPL wise, just being in the top. If I was in the Champions League spots, money spots, I'll be happy right now, because when you're high in the league, you're in a situation where you know that okay, you're high in the league, so like you've got the opportunity to finish top. Right now, I'm trying to get into the higher positions, and it's annoying. And when it doesn't work out, the only thing that's saving grace is that I'm beating you, man. But that isn't enough. And like I said in the last ep, I want to progress and climb this league now, and it's not happening at the moment. But it's a good start.
So was that you politically correctly saying that we're fodder? So you're not really bothered about us?
Trying to say we're
not even
coleslaw, fam. Anyone there, like 5 man.
It's not even that. You know what it is? Because I've got the gap. I had the gap in it. So I've had the gap in you, man. Ark was closing that gap, and it distracted me from the bigger goal, innit, which is to try and climb the league. But by trying to climb the league, if I'm doing that, which I'm assuming you're all trying to do, it means that you have a good week overall, you're probably hosting. Just you want to call it luck or unlucky or whatever. Like this week, you're 1 point behind me, so you could have easily been hosting. But I didn't get a green arrow. So
that's the thing that's genuine about all of it, right? Because in reality, FPL is about the mini leagues, right? It's about beating your rivals. It's about having that banner and swinging and so on. Obviously, we want to do as well as we can do, but it's always heartening when you can just look at your nearest rival that we banter all the time, that it can be like, yeah, weren't you this week? Which is unfortunate that I haven't experienced that for a while. So we go again, as they say.
Well, think about Guffs, how he feels. So.
Oh, okay. New year, same shit, yeah? I see you.
Right, well, first jab for 2026, you get me? And we know if you was leading the Triple Captains League, we wouldn't have had the last of it. So
I'm a humble man. I keep telling you, 20 weeks now. I'm a man of people.
So this is carrying on in 2026 for you as well.
I'm a man of people, man. You know what I mean? So
let's see what happens if you rise. But decent game week, you know. And I'm glad that the I know outside of the Prem, there's back-to-back games every 3 days for some clubs, etc. But I mean, at least FPL now has got a bit of normality back to once a week, which is good. But it's critical times now. Critical times. I'm sure we'll get into it when the episode advances, but there's a lot of things going on now with everyone having chips, players' prices rising, like emotions, people chasing, so much to talk about. Not enough episodes because FPL you can talk about it forever if you love FPL like I do. So let's get into our teams. What was your thoughts, Ark?
Well, it was one of those weeks that revealed a lot for me. I was exposed in a number of different areas and it all came back to roost for me this week. So there have been a few times where I've kind of got away with it. But this week, the concerns I've got is structurally, my team's not really set up for being able to cope with one person not doing well. So that's what I need to start looking into. So I've spoken a couple of times before about the fact that Gordon is a minutes issue for me. He was again. I had the same scenario with Cherky. He got rotated, which again created an issue for me. So what I have is, and I had a number of defenders that were doing that. So minutes are a big issue for me at the moment. And I know that there's lots of rotation because of the period that we've just had, but it's worrying that, okay, I can have one or two things go wrong and my squad's not strong enough for me to actually have a baseline that supports me to get me even to the average. So that's something that I need to work on. And one thing in particular that is an interesting arc for me is that Semenyo obviously now has gone to City. It's what effect does that have on him? He obviously isn't going to get the kind of minutes that he was getting at Bournemouth, or at least I don't think so in the most nearest game times. So what do I do? Do I stick? Do I twist? Like time will tell us, I guess, because I don't have enough transfers and I don't expect to start taking minuses at the moment.
What you got?
Yeah, it's a case of it wasn't something that went terribly wrong this week. It was just small errors made a big impact on my game week. I brought in Bowen this week, which we spoke about last week in a game show. I just, Ekatike was injured and I thought the opportunity to kind of bring in Bowen against a Forest team who were struggling on the road. It didn't pay off. And what made it worse was, had I kept Ekatike, I would have got a clean sheet at the bench for 6 and probably won the game week. So, it's just like these kind of decisions are not going my way, and it's this game's cruel, man. Like it doesn't favor the brave a lot of times. I mean, you really got to play the percentages. And this is a game when you try and put your chest out and try and play, big balls FPL, and you get slapped in the face. So once again, it happened to me. But the biggest impact it's had on me going forward is that now I've got no changes. Well, one change it's game week, and I probably want to make 2 or 3 changes. And had I kept my change, I could have done it without making a minus. So yeah, it's a bit frustrating, really. But yeah, it is what it is.
Don't you think that? But the decision around Bowen was logical, right? There is a process and there is a reason for doing it. It wasn't off the cuff, complete off the whim type move. Like it was you playing the fixture, I guess, as well as the fact that Bowen has got decent returns, or at least underlying data.
I think we all every FPL manager who plays a game makes changes on some sort of rationale, right? We find an excuse or reason to justify bringing a player in.
Not everyone does.
Yeah, not everyone, but in the most part, the serious players, we build a case as to why we should bring players in, right? And you hope the sort of footballing gods fall your way. I think with the Bowen one, it was always a risk because West Ham are in such poor form. There was always that thing that West Ham haven't got the creativity in the team for him to kind of explode and give him the points I need. So I took him on knowing that it could be the case, and unfortunately went against me. I mean, he had a couple of chances in the game where he was through and goal and didn't take him, which was frustrating. But look, when you are struggling in a league as I am, I'm now at a point in game 22 where I can no longer play the game safe. I'm way down the league. Playing safe is now out the window. I now have to keep on taking risks now, and That's the only way I'm going to make round up. So yeah, I'll continue to sort of bring in some risky players and hope that one of them sort of hits off in the right time. But unfortunately, this week didn't work out. Is what it is.
Yes. What went well, Mr. Hots?
Before I get into what went well, I just want to say, I too looked at Katike, and as you guys know, I've been doing minuses every game week for the longest. So I decided, I've done a minus. I don't want to go too far and do a -8 and put Thiago in for Katike. So I'm going to hold off fire and just go with my double Arsenal defence, because I took Rice out, as you may know. Now, I wish I just did the minus, and I keep on saying, when I don't do the minuses that comes to me, it always backfires, and I'm pissed I didn't put Thiago in, because I wanted him back in my team anyway, and now I've lost out. But I'm in the middle for a reason, so I've got to look at what did go right. And what did go right is, yes, Rice is fit, so that's a regret. But I always had to get Gabriel in. I got Gabriel in for about 6.3. I believe he's currently 6.7 going on to 6.8. And since I've got him in, he's been doing what Gabriel does. So,
So he's making you money.
There. He's making me money, but I'm not looking to take him out of my team now. So he's not important money-wise. But at least I got him in early-ish. So I don't know if he was 6'2", and I got him in at 6'3", but it's irrelevant. Bottom line is, I got him and I got Raya, and by having the double defence, it was the first time Arsenal kept a clean sheet for the last few games, so that worked out well. And it was my defence that really got me my points. Cash got me a clean sheet for the first time in a while as well, so that paid off. And just the back line is where I got most of my points this week. So, I'm hoping that now that Arsenal's had the more difficult games on paper, they got them out of the way, I should get a few more double clean sheets, and that's the aim. And especially in this tricky period, where some people have Timber and Gabriel, or whoever, Capia and Gabriel. I've got Raya and Gabriel. And I think Raya doesn't get rotated in the league. So as much as he was a question mark for me to take out, when I think about FPL and the rotation risks that are in teams, I think Raya is probably the most secure at the back. So even though he doesn't get the save points, etc., I don't think I'm going to take him out anymore. And I was contemplating that strongly before. And then obviously Gabriel being back from injury, hopefully he doesn't get rotated. And I doubt he will. So I'm hoping that if we do get a clean sheet, some of the rotation impacts other people with doubles at the back or triples at the back. So, yeah.
Okay, so we're at the section of the show that we spoke about over the past couple of weeks. We talked about the fact that we want to start bringing a question to you and a theme for each of the episodes. This week, what we wanted to focus on was how to think and not just pick. And what we mean by that is we've all now become open to chips are all available to us again. Lots of content is out there. And usually we get to this period of the season where people start thinking, I really need to get things in order. So I need to copy someone. I need to look at the template or who the best players. It's easy for us to do this because everybody starts getting a bit of decision fatigue, that kind of thing. People get impatient as well, right? So what we wanted to do here is just focus on, okay, what are the things that we need to have in place that help us to actually make decisions that will be useful for our team? Because when you copy, the problem you have is you're copying somebody else's context. You're copying their urgencies and so on. So, and that might not suit your actual team. If we assume that everybody's team is slightly different and we aiming to go towards a template, unless you wildcard, you're not going to be able to copy exactly a template. So most people will be in a situation where they think, okay, I've got 2 or 3 transfers that could get me these people or those people, and try to map that against fixtures. Again, it's more about us working out, okay, how do good managers make decisions? What do they think about before they do that? Is now the right time to be looking into using a wildcard and so on? I guess you guys know that my thoughts around wildcards and free hits are, these are really chips that you dig into when your squad is in problems. Like, I feel like if you have to go into those really quickly, then you haven't really done any planning. That said, it didn't work out for me in the first half of the season because I didn't wildcard until too late and it didn't have the effect that it needed to. What do you guys feel about those kinds of things?
The first half of the season, I don't think the chips mattered. You know, you got and everyone to just get what they could out of it. But this is where the chips actually matter, and this is where they count. So you mentioned something that I have to be honest on. I'm a person that usually tries to hold my chips for double game weeks and stuff like that. And if I'm going to do an early wildcard in the second half of the season, it would usually be after the January transfer window when I've seen who's coming and who's going, etc. But I've been in that position where I've actually thought, should I just bust this chip now so that I can just get who I want in now, well, before the prices go up, etc. But so far I've held off and just said, nah, I don't want to just do a knee jerk into something and then someone gets signed at the end of the transfer window and I regret it. So that rushing into a chip or forcing it is what I would have been doing, and I might have regretted it. So I'm glad I haven't.
Yeah.
But with someone like me that does minuses almost every week, or has done in the last few weeks, sometimes a wild card can save you from minuses as well. So bear that in mind if you're someone that just takes hits. But yeah, in general, I think it's best to wait.
Do you know what? For me, I don't think there's like a right or wrong answer here. You know, I think that we all have different teams at this point, and everyone has different needs and wants, and are working on different strategies. What I will say is that when it comes to playing your chips, wild cards, whatever it may be, I think a lot of it depends on maybe where you are in your league as well. I think for me, you know, I said at the start of the show, there's no point with me just following the template at this point. You know, that's not going to make big gain to me. I'm not here to just go with a status quo and just float to a mid-table existence. You know, I want to try to sort of get as high up league as I possibly can. So, you know, I now have to sort of focus on attack mode, and to do that, I've got to go against the grain. You know, I think when it comes to the wild card specifically, I'm looking at two options: play early or hold on late. Because I think most people playing this game will probably play it just after the January window, once everyone's returned from African nations, once teams settle down, once we kind of get back to sort of a fairly consistent rhythm. And I either sort of play it now, so I get the advantage of having the maximum amount of game weeks to take advantage of that wild card, or I sort of use it really, really late when people have already used their wild cards. I can sort of just take advantage of. I can completely switch my team in game week 28 and attack the players who are fit or whatever it may be. So yeah, it's and also, like, you know, to Hot's point about the chips in the first part of the game, I disagree. I think the chips mattered in the first half of the season. I mean, I was calculating the points I lost with my chips in the first half. It was almost 100 points. You know, I played my triple captain in the 1 week that Harley did nothing. Okay, you played yours, Hots, in game where you got 2 goals and an assist and got 46 points. You know, Ark did the same. No, sorry. Someone else, other people did it in the other game week when he played against who did they play against? I forget they played against them, but they had the
in both weeks when he got the 2 holes. They both were the exact same points. And
yeah, and those are the 2 big weeks that we played triple captain. So, you know, I've played in the worst possible time and missed out on big points. Also, I played my bench boost on game 1, which is an accident, genuinely. And, you know, some people have played a bench boost, like Ark, for example, and got some points on the bench. So all my chips in the first half season went completely wrong, you know, and those points could and should have been giving me another 50 points boost at least. and then suddenly I'm sitting in this table, not a million points behind you hots. You know, maybe like 30 points behind, or do you see what I'm saying? So it does matter. Obviously,
I guess what I was thinking, even whilst you were talking, Guffs, is that are you saying that because of the outcomes for the chips that you had in the first half of the season, like they bring a certain urgency to the way you're thinking about using your chips now? Because I guess that's one of the reasons why we're even having this section, right? Because sometimes the chips can be a trap, right? Like, because psychologically everybody wants to reset, right? Like we're in a situation where, okay, yeah, we've got loads of chips available. Like if I do this, it's not too bad because I still have another 3 chips left, that kind of thing. And so I guess where we want to be is that we want to try to make sure that everybody is using, yes, their thought process and the eye test to confirm what they're doing, but they should be using data to confirm what they're doing as well, right? Like you should be kind of trying to look at it and be like, okay,
100%.
I can see a fixture pattern here. Like, so these are the people that I need to have, or what are the decisions that you should be thinking about before you hit the wild card, right? So obviously we know there is a situation if you have a horrendous amount of injuries, etc. But okay, what else should you be thinking about? Like, because if you go to wildcard, what does that mean to the other decisions that you're going to need to make? This is the kind of thing that we should all be thinking about. Like, I know, for instance, Hots, you do think about that stuff all of the time. Over the years that we've been doing this, and annoyingly, watching you win stupendously in the second half of the season, like, it is always because you're thinking 5 transfers ahead. You're thinking about what's going to happen in 6 weeks' time and so on. And I think that's kind of where we need to be. Like, people do need to be thinking more about, no, not knee-jerk, because just trying to win your week isn't going to win the season for you. It really won't. Like, you do need to actually have that long-term thinking, which, like I said, to be fair, like, I give you many props for it because I've seen you do it year in, year out type thing. It's frustrating because I look at it and think, I can do that. And then I don't pull it off. Like, but like, I do respect the fact that you never look at what you're doing over oh yeah, I'll just do this. You rarely take a punt. Like, the one thing I've always noted with you is that you do generally, your transfers are always for like a 1 month gig. It's not oh yeah, I'll do 1 week and then I'll get rid of them.
You have to take punts, but it's still got to be calculated due to fixtures. So, for example, we know that Chelsea's got a good run coming up at the moment. So I'm sure everyone is going to be looking to get some Chelsea assets in. I think my best punt so far this season was Harry Wilson, because I put him in early. And there's been other players that I should have put in and I didn't, but when on runs. I put Foden in a bit late. It's not a punt, but he's only had that hot period and that was it. So like, I call it Harry Wilson's one. At the moment, we know that there's a new manager at Chelsea. They've got 4 good games in a row. Doesn't mean they're going to achieve anything in those 4 games, to make that clear. But that's what you look at and try to plan towards. But to go back to Guffs, the reason I'm saying that the chips in the first half of the season isn't as important to me as the second half is for these reasons. One, it's new to the game. So we've always had 2 wildcards. So the first wildcard has never been that deep for me because I know I'm going to get another one. And I stand by that today because that wildcard team that I picked is irrelevant 2 weeks later. And that happened to you as well this season. When you did your wildcard, immediately after you wanted to make changes. So that goes to show you that, yes, you can get the perfect team for that game week, but going forward, your team's going to change because the fixtures are going to change. Injuries are going to happen. So that covers that one. In regards to the free hit, that is just a week basis. So we had the debate, or should I say, Art brought that debate up when he was like, is it worth doing the free hit or actually just bypassing it if your team's good and not using that chip? So that goes to show the level of that chip. If your team's good, by changing it and using that free hit unnecessarily, it could actually penalize you. So the obvious chip, which no matter what happens, is the triple captain one. So if you triple captain and it pays off, obviously it's going to bring you some joy and it's going to give you those points to capitalize on the chip. But if it goes wrong, like it did for you, then the chip doesn't amount to nothing. So in reality, for me, everyone gets those chips. In the first half of the season, I'm not too fussed about them. I don't think they're the be-all or end-all. I think when it comes to the second half of the season, when you sort of know, okay, I'm halfway through, this is where I am, and you start setting realistic targets, you now need to play those chips and you have to get them right because it's vital in the second half of the season to get them right. Now, my chips didn't go bad, but I'm still nowhere where I want to be in the real leagues. But mark my words, if I get them right in this half of the season, I'm going to climb. And this is where it matters. And I think that everyone that hasn't done well needs to just brush that under the rug and just think, okay, 2026, set some realistic goals and try to aim for them. And if you get there, then set your next one. And that's the approach you need to have. But these chips are going to help to get you where you need to get to. So you have to think forward.
One thing I will say quickly on this point, and I guess it comes back to the sort of main question, Art, that you sort of raised. Like, if it's important for all FPL players to just have a strategy, period. I think the game will do what the game does, right? No one's Mystic Meg here. We can't predict who's going to score, when they're going to score. But I think when you look at the people that have been successful year in, year out, the content creators, and you watch from afar and you think, why are they always in the top 10,000? Why are they always in the top? There's a reason, right? And it's not because they have some crystal ball. It's because they have a strategy, right? And I think most importantly, you need to have a strategy about what you want to do, what you're trying to achieve, and play it out. I mean, the people that are kind of big knee-jerk and don't stick to their path, whatever path it may be, are the ones that ultimately fail in this game. And I've been a victim of that myself over the years, where I kind of bring a player in for a few weeks and I panic, or he's not doing well, and I take him out, and suddenly I take him out and he does well for 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, why did I take him out for? Because I forget that I actually brought this player in for 5 weeks, let it play out. And I think that, anyone that's kind of new to the game, not doing well or struggled, and I would say that just have a strategy and stick to it. Let it play out. Understand why you've made those choices. Understand why you've made the wild card. Understand why you put your certain play in, and follow through on your actions. And if you do that, more often than not, it's going to go right. And the years that I've been,
I agree with that. Still.
The years that I've done well, or the time I've done well, are the times when I've actually been patient and actually stuck to my guns and followed through on the strategy. So when I come back full circle to my original point I made earlier on, and I talk about my wild card or whatever choosing to play, I'm now in a mindset of like, okay, am I going to be super aggressive now or super aggressive later? So that's where my head's at right now. And I'm not quite sure which way I'm going to go yet, because my team, as it currently stands, is not a bad team. Like, I feel like I've been unlucky in terms of the points I've got. But there is that slight sort of anxiety that I have, was like, week after week, I'm not getting the points I should be getting. Am I actually in the right team, or is it just bad luck? So your brain sort of plays with you a little bit.
The key word you said was patient, or patience, should I say. And when I heard the Rice is out, my immediate reaction was, F that. I'm going to get Gabriel in, because I was petting on getting Gabriel in, and he's gone up to 6-3. I know he's going to go up to 6-4. I ain't got time to wait around. So I've got Gabriel in and took out Rice. And yes, he went up to 6-4. And yes, I do watch mine. But Gabriel, like I said earlier, is a long-term, was a long-term target for me. So he won't be coming out. So whatever he comes in for won't be relevant, because he ain't coming out of my team unless it's injury. So by not being patient and seeing what was good with Rice, I regret it, because I wanted to keep Rice. Gabriel's a better asset, without a shadow of a doubt, but I did want to keep Rice. And if I'd waited, yes, Gabriel would have been a bit more money, but I would have taken out Saka, not Rice. And Rice would have got me those points that he did when he came back. But it's also the same dilemma now, where my patience has been questioned because of Ekitike. I kept him for Thiago, and that was the wrong choice. And I know he's going to be back for Burnley, for Liverpool. And, you know, that makes him a good candidate for captaincy, but we'll talk about that when we get to captaincies. But I want Thiago in my team. So I've been stuck in the same dilemma of, should I just be patient with Ekitike for the Burnley game? Or long-term, what do I want? And I think you've got to look at long-term strategies. Who you want in your team? Like, I wanted Rice long-term, and I went against that. I now got to think about, do I want Thiago long-term or not? Because if I do, then I've got to sacrifice that Burnley game to get my long-term target in now while the price is right. So that's my dilemma. So it's about patience and knowing who your long-term targets are.
How do you manage, I guess to both of you really, someone like Dominic Calvert-Lewin is a prime example, right? So I'm sure there are like millions of players who are watching maybe this podcast or just generally thinking that he's been scoring goals, but it's Dominic Calvert-Lewin. It can't go on. It can't last. And you think you missed the boat. I mean, how do you balance that in terms of think to yourself, you know what? No, he needs to come on my team, regardless of whether I feel this about it or not, or it won't last. Is it a case-by-case thing? Are you looking at stats? I mean, how do you make that assessment?
I think that when you make assessments on players, you've got to start logically thinking about purpose and rationale rather than just vibes and going after the badge, because that's the reason why some people make a lot of choices, right? They think, oh, well, like I was guilty of it at the start of the season, for instance. Like I picked Gyökeres to be within my team more because he played for Arsenal. So therefore, I assumed chances will be created. Any striker for Arsenal should score XYZ goals. The reality is no, because the data didn't back that up. There wasn't any data to begin with, right? It was only really that you could go off of the reputation that he had previously, right? Then in reality, there were weeks that were going by where we weren't seeing any uplift in his data that would support it or confirm that he still needs to be in the team. So money was better spent elsewhere. But I kept on holding on to that hope more because of the badge than because of the actual individual. So as a sensible player, you do need to take emotion out of it and start looking at it and say, okay, like I'm seeing that underlying data is showing this. Like, as we know, I've talked about this a couple of times. XG isn't something that in particular, I think, is a great stat for you to base what you're doing things on. Because remember, the XG is only measuring the quality of a shot. It's not saying that, oh yeah, loads of chances are being created, etc. and so on. I think we saw City 1 at the weekend, 10-1. The XG was only 2.5. Like, so the XG doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to score X, Y, Z amount of goals. But coming back to the point you were making, Guffs, like one of the learnings for me during this season has been, as much as I try to be scientific with it and talk about using data to confirm what I'm doing, even I can get pulled into the emotion of, oh no, this has surely got to be a good move. Like, I suppose Hots even speaks of it sometimes where he talks about, no, he's due a goal. But that's also the reason why when he's talking about what happened with Rice, he mentions the fact that actually he probably would have got rid of Saka. And he would have brought in Gabriel and had Rice and had Raya. So I think from a decision quality type scenario is to try to pull the emotion out of it. Forget where the player is. Just think of what they're doing, what is their output and what the outcome is showing you at that moment in time. And if it's saying that, well, yeah, this person, it's a trend, don't go against the trend. It's like if you're trading Forex, don't go against the trend. You don't go against the price action. And that's one of the biggest learnings, I guess, we need to take into what we're doing in the second half of the season, especially around the kind of decisions that we're making, because you want to reframe the decision so that it's better quality, right? Like, so it's like we were saying, there's this reset mentality that comes into place because we've got loads of chips available. Like, but actually the urgency doesn't mean it's an opportunity, right? Like, we actually need to look for the opportunity. So you need to seek out the opportunity and then say, okay, that confirms that, yes, I should be doing that. Right. So, and we're all guilty of it. I'm sure even the guys that are in the top 100 have made decisions this season where they moved too quickly, or they moved somebody on too quickly, or they waited, they delayed a bit too much. But the best way in order for us to get that decision quality better is things like that. You look at it and think that, well, because I have a chip, it doesn't mean that I have to do this right now. And because that's another issue, another area that people run into problems because they feel obligated, like, oh, yeah, but so-and-so said this. Like, the one thing that I would say to everybody is that the story that you see online is not the real story of an FPL. Like, so, like, there can be content that is out there that is actually just content to pick the brain. And you might see it and think, oh yeah, that's the right thing to do. And you go with it. And then you realize that actually the person that generated that content didn't do that themselves. Right. And they didn't do that themselves, not because like they were trying to lead you up a garden path. Like, you also got to remember that a content creator is exactly that, right? They're creating content. They want engagement. They want you to be thinking. Thinking is a good thing. Like, copying is not necessarily a good thing. Like, just saying that, oh yeah, because this person did it, I'm going to do it. Unless the data is screaming at you, don't just make a knee-jerk reaction to it. Like, I think if you can do that, then, for instance, even with the decision that you talked about earlier, where you took TK out and you brought Bowen in, right? But there was a logic behind it. Like, he was an injury concern. You thought, okay, I can take him out. You can downgrade. That gives you extra money that you can maybe spread around the rest of the squad. And there's a sensible chance that Bowen, who gets the most chances for West Ham, would put one away in that game, in what was a must-win game, right? So, and it doesn't mean that he can't score in any subsequent games. So you have to weigh up reward and risk, right? But you just need to make sure that there is some logic behind your decision making, that there is a thought process, because often if you get wrapped up in one particular data point that you're looking at, you will start making decisions that are temporary. They're just on a week to week basis. And that's not going to be how anybody wins their mini league or overall FPL.
I guess that's a good transition to sort of the slide we'll bring up now, which is, the template slide, right? And where we are. And for people that are watching, this represents the sort of the most highly valued players in the game. I guess we are taking in sort of the team value in consideration here. It's essentially the top 11 players in a squad. And I guess there's no real surprises here. I guess the one thing I will say, looking at this graphic here, I mean, Gahey, he's the one player I would expect possibly to drop significantly over the next few weeks. I mean, Palace have been struggling in recent weeks. They leaked a lot of goals recently. Richards is injured. They lost Lerma. And I think the games at the start of the season are starting to sort of take a toll on Palace. And we all knew they haven't got the squad to maintain this. And I think we're now sort of starting to sort of see a slide from Palace, right? So he's one player I think that will probably drop off the template in weeks to come. But
I guess as well, what can happen with him dropping off the template is dependent on where he moves. If he does move in January, will that affect his guaranteed minutes? So like you say, it could mean that his ownership levels do drop.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, Haaland is highly owned, the most highly owned player in the game. We know that already.
Yeah, I think he's 8%, isn't he?
Yeah.
What's your risk level? Because obviously we've got a template of the team that is most highly owned. Like, obviously, you do very well in the second half of the season, and that's something that's been said already, and, you tend to sort of power through. What's your risk level? I guess I'm trying to work out. Are you someone that believes...
Are you asking risk level or risk tolerance?
I guess risk tolerance, yeah. It's probably a better way of saying it, right? Because, I mean...
Say it in layman's. What do you mean? Like, taking minuses, like going for players?
That is, as you said, that would be your risk tolerance. Like, you're prepared to take minuses if something isn't going well, right? Whereas I guess somebody like me is a bit more conservative. You know that I try to avoid hits as much as possible, kind of thing, which in reality, you rightly tell me off for. because there are times where we talk about decisions that I toy with making, I don't do it, and you're like, yeah, if you'd done that, this would happen or that would have happened. So, yeah, it is about it's risk tolerance. Yeah.
So I think that you have to take minuses in this game. And you mentioned Guffs, content creators before, and they're usually, in the top 10K, for example. That's absolutely not true, just for the record. A lot of the content creators have been in the top 10, and a lot of them go through periods like everyone else when they're out of it. But because they've hit high figures on more than one occasion, it's seen that, that they just do it all the time. But a lot of them talk about having bad seasons, but a few of them are having good seasons currently. And it comes down to having balls. Like, the bottom line is, some of them don't like minuses, but take them. And I think if you don't take minuses in this game, it holds you back, because there's times where you can see what needs to be done, but you're worried about losing 4 points. But if you put a person in that's going to get you more than 4 points, it's covered in that same week that you do it in. And I was saying to myself, because I did -4, -4, I thought, I can't do a -8 too. That's too much. When if you guys are going to end up getting the hosting position, because I've given a -8 before it even starts. And then guess what? It didn't matter, because if I just put Thiago in, man smashed it. So reality is, it's timing. What I wanted to say before anyway is something else, but I just wanted to pin on that. Yes, I think that you need to take minuses when it's time's right, but everything is timing in this game. And the deepest thing about this game is captaincy for me. And everyone's captaining Haaland, so that's making it different this season. Because usually, if you get the right captain, that will boost you forward. But because most weeks everyone's captaining Haaland, it's not making no differences. So there's not really no one catching anyone. Hence why I didn't captain Haaland for those 3 game weeks in a row. But then, like I said, the people that I captained didn't eat as much as they should have. So unfortunately, it didn't make much of a difference. But imagine if I didn't have Ekatike and I captained Thiago and he got a hat-trick with Haaland doing nothing. So right now, it is about risk-taking. It's about going against, if you're trying to catch up, it is about risk-taking in the sense of minuses or going against Haaland. But you've got to time that right. Because if it's wrong, you're going to regret it. Because everyone's going to eat if you go against Haaland and he does well and you don't. So yeah, I'm all for risk, you know that. That's where the old AKA hardcore hots came from. Because man was prepared to go into a hardcore match, you get me? Like Mankind and them man there. But all jokes aside, you've got to be brave. You can't go into this thinking I don't want to take minuses, because then you will regret it. I'd rather take minuses and regret that it didn't work out. Not even regret, accept that it didn't work out, but I tried a thing rather than not trying the thing and it would have paid off, and then I'm mad at myself.
Okay, so I mean, since we're on that kind of risk talk, I mean, I guess it kind of really moves quite nicely on to terms of players, I guess, that are maybe overlooked, undervalued. I guess we'll start with you, Ark, right? I mean, defensively, I mean, is it someone that people should be paying attention to, or you are, for someone that maybe goes under the radar or is a pacifier? I mean, what's your view?
I think, there are many, to be fair, and also like scenarios where even for myself, I look at it, I pride myself on the idea that I can identify the ugly ducklings, and I haven't been doing that enough this year. There are a few players out there, and when we talk about ugly ducklings and stuff like this, we're talking about people that are playing for unfancied teams, right? That they get ignored because they don't have the right badge type thing. So, for instance, like when I'm looking into things, one that I would always offer up is Lewis Potter, and there's a reason why I would offer him up, because ultimately he's a winger that is playing as a fullback at the moment. So the game has misdiagnosed him, right? And for that, you could see he costs under 5 million. Like in the last 4 game weeks or whatever, not his XGI has been like 1.33. Like that's That's elite for a striker, let alone a defender. Right? He's had 6 shots. 5 of them have been in the box. Like, his bonus points scoring, he's got over 100 in the last 4 game weeks. Like, so generally his point score as well has been like 35. Like, see, you're talking about a points per game of nearly 8. That's from a defender. But the funniest thing about Lewis Potter is that he's still under 4% owned. Like, and again, it's because he's unfashionable. Like, people are trying to work out, like, are his minutes guaranteed? Are they not? And so on. What it is with him is, I don't know, and I'd love to hear from Brentford supporters that are watching the podcast or listening to it, to give us an idea of what his story has been for the first part of the season. Because when I look into it, like, he wasn't starting, then times that he was starting to get 60 minutes and so on. But generally, when he gets over 70 minutes, he's returning. Like, there is a return that you get from that. And that was pre-AFCON and after AFCON. So for me, he's definitely one that is under the radar. Nobody's looking at him, but he's got elite attacking numbers. Like, and again, it's the club bias. Nobody's really going in for him. Like, and I'm sure we've all seen it over the past couple of game weeks, where I think there was one game where he scored 2, and you know, you feel sick to your stomach. You're like, how did I miss this guy?
Yeah,
I've been looking at him ever since he scored those goals, and it's gonna sound silly because it's not expensive. I think he was 4.9. I don't know how much he is now.
Yeah, he's 4.
I don't even know if he's gone up.
No, he hasn't. He's 4.9.
Yeah, and I was thinking, don't know if I'm gonna put him in at 4.9 because there's other players that I could put in. I think that'll be better for value for money, and I don't know if he's gonna always play or not. And it was pissing me off, if I'm honest, because it's that I like defenders that are top or going forward. So I was like, it's annoying. See, like with people that have made the decision with, is it Dargo from United? He's starting up top, but then what is it? New manager now. But I mean, the plan would have been that after having Cup of Nations, he might have to come out people's teams because he might not hold that position now. But as you said with Potter, he's always in and about the team. So he's like someone that, if I have him in my team, I'm going to want to start him every week, but I'm just not sure if he'll get those minutes. And it's a tricky one, so I opted out of it. But since then, he's had a few games. So like you saying it just made me smart because I actually been thinking about him for a long time and it was on my wish list. Yeah, it's interesting that you picked him as a player.
He's a player where you're like, actually, the data kind of does scream at you. Why doesn't this guy have a space in your team? And like you say, you think, well, there are other people that will probably give him more value. The reality is different from what our perception is. Like, he's actually putting numbers on the board, so you've kind of got to work with it. I suppose another one that you would look at is the guy at Sunderland, Alderete. Like, again, 4 million defender, but you're looking at somebody that's bringing you in 4 points per game, like as a minimum. Like, so he's giving you that strong baseline. As you know, you guys know what my strategy and my structure has started to be. So that's the reason why I've been looking at things like this, because I'm like, I need to make some headway. But again, he's another player that he's nailed. He's playing, like, he's having shots in the box. Like, it's very difficult to look at a player that is nailed, giving you that kind of upside, and he's not in your team because he's also an enabler. Like, so he's nailed, he's an enabler, and he's giving potential attacking upside. So, and to one of the points that you made a good few weeks ago, Hots, that things are starting to turn back around. It's almost like the season is settling down back into what we usually know FPL to be, as in midfielders doing their thing, forwards now starting to get back into the mix. But also that means that we've got fullbacks that are now actually getting rewarded for being up and down and so on, because for most of the season, if you think about it, it's the central areas that have been getting that good baseline, that floor, that is like the 4 points are there minimum. So it's been centre backs that have been hogging the limelight from the back, for instance. It's been those central midfielders that you usually look at and say, oh, well, they're kind of playing a 6 or whatever not. Again, been hogging the limelight because they're the ones that they're all action. So they've been getting those additional points and they've been good for bonus points as well. But yeah, definitely from my perspective, Lewis Potter is one of the ones I would say, yes, he should be on all watch lists. You wait for some confirmation on his minutes over the next 2 or 3 and like he should be good to go. Okay, and Hots, you've been looking at midfielders, right?
Yeah. So I think I'll have to go with 2 midfielders instead of 1 because I have to call my guy, Harry Wilson. I don't think that it's a little streak that he's going through. You know, he's maintained his fitness for the first time in a very long time, to my knowledge, and he's always been a guy that I believe can finish and has a bit of techers, but I just believe that he's going to continue this run. So I wanted to pick someone that's I didn't want to pick someone that's in my team. I just wanted to pick someone, and he was the man I wanted to pick. But because he's in my team, I had to think of someone else too, so it doesn't seem biased. So Harry Wilson, I think he's 5th. So he's in the top 5 midfielders in the whole league. So there's no question about whether he deserves to be mentioned or not. He's 5th. He's scoring goals. And if he's not scoring goals, he's assisting. And he's playing. And he's at a very, very good price where he's under 6. So you can't complain about Harry Wilson being an asset in the team. So I think if there's a midfielder that is still being ignored or people are doubting or they're thinking they've missed his run, Harry Wilson is the man that you should be looking at. Good fixtures as well coming up. So it's not like they've got a tough run of fixtures coming up. Now you've missed the chance and opportunities. He's still got decent opportunities. And then if I had to pick a midfielder that's not in my team, I think that I'd be looking at someone who's this is more of a surprise to people. And if I'm honest, it's even a surprise to myself because I like him as a player, but he's not someone that I would have put in. But Gardner from Everton. He sometimes covers a left back, but he's a midfielder in a game. He plays 90 minutes no matter where he's playing. And he's consistent. So if he's playing in defence, he gets defensive contributions. When he's playing in midfield, he gets goals, he gets assists. Again, he gets defensive contributions. He's very consistent with his 90 minutes. So you know that he's going to always play. And being at Everton, Gardner is, he's secure for minutes. And I can see that Moyes likes him, hence why he sometimes plays him at the back if he needs cover. But he's just always in the team. So if you're like me looking at different options right now, and you think, okay, the general's cheap strikers, the general cheap midfielders, or the general cheap defenders, I think Gardner is someone that you need to put on your watch list. Everton's fixtures ain't too bad. And Gardner himself is 9th or 10th out of midfielders in the whole league too. So if you think that he ain't really done much though, he's 10th in the whole league for midfielders. And that's without doing much, if that's how you think. So he's someone that I'd also keep an eye on. He's someone I personally am keeping an eye on. He isn't the person I'm putting in right now, but he's someone that is on my watch list. And I think he's someone that I will be considering strongly for the next few game weeks because I've got a lot of money spent in areas and I want to have players that, if you're the cheaper side of my players, you've got to be playing. Because I've had people on my team that are like, what's his name? Gooey from Chelsea or whatever his name is. And he ain't playing. He ain't getting no minutes. So that when it comes to this side of the season, again, I'll talk about my little second half of the season. Well, when it's the second half of the season, you know you're going to do your bench boost. You know you're going to look to be, if you're me, you're going to be looking to do that bench boost potentially in a double game week. Where this season's a bit different from others, I'm not saying it has to be in a double game week, but you're going to probably want it in a double game week. Even if it's not, you want your bench to be playing. Garner plays it again. And for 5.1, playing every game, he'll be a good asset. So Harry Wilson's my number one pick for midfield, for price value, and I'll give Ducklings as you call it. I'm new to that saying, just for the record. But yeah, and I'd say Gardner would be the one that's not in my team. And if I was looking for someone to recommend, I think he covers all ground at the price he's at. And like I said, top 10, can't really argue because there's lots of big fancy names that ain't on the points he's on.
Yep. But how about yourself, Guffs?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be looking at the strikers, and the strikers it's a tricky area to pitch because it hasn't been kind this year for strikers, right? In FPL, as we know, outside of Haaland and Thiago, most of the strikers have been struggling, this year, and I think that's been shown in a deviation in people's sort of tactics, going for like a 4-4-2 or 4-5-1 formation because the points just haven't been there to support having sort of elite strikers in the game. But the one striker that I've looked at, and technically it's not an ugly ducking club, but it's Man United. I'm going to go Sesko, and I'm going to say Sesko because I think at this point now, Man United have been struggling for a number of years now. I think that we, at least for the interim, we recognise that Man United are going through a period where they're not going to be competing for any major honours and potentially going to be in the peripheral of Champions League spaces if they're lucky. But Sesko's an interesting one because he came in late and he's had injury struggles and he's rarely had periods where he's kind of had back-to-back 9 minutes, but he's starting to put a couple of performances together in terms of he's played 2 games now, 70 minutes, 90 minutes. He's got 3 goals in the last 2 games. And if you look at his underlying data, it's actually pretty good. And if you look deeper in terms of his points per game, it's not that bad. I think it's up there in the top 15 in the overall game. So I think if he can map that and get consistent minutes over the next 15, 16 games, there's an opportunity there that he could actually do some damage. He's 7.2 million. That's a good price point. He's going to play games, right? They haven't got any other options up top. And the other thing to watch out for with Man United is that they now obviously got rid of Amorim, so they're now going to drop that dumb formation that clearly wasn't fit for their team. So you expect them to go to more of a conventional, possibly a 4-3-3 formation, which suits Bruno Fernandes, who is their primary creator. And you would think that someone like Sesko might benefit from that. So he's one to watch, I think. And I think that some of the hesitation that I have, and some people have put them in their team right now, is Man United's next 2 games are Man City and Arsenal, which are 2 of the toughest games in the league. But what I would say against that, for people that are thinking about him, is that this is the time to actually put him in. While he's stock's low, while people are scared to put him in, while he's very, very lowly owned, now's the time to get him in while he's cheap, and then take advantage of the run that comes after those 2 games. Because Man United, all they've got to play now is the league games. There's no cups, there's no Europe, it's the league. And you would think that rest they're going to get versus other teams will start to pay dividends. So he's definitely someone to look out for. And someone that I'm paying attention to over the next couple of game weeks. So yeah, that's someone that I quite like.
Yeah, and I guess that really pushes us to the key takeaway for this section, right? The key takeaway is that it's not really about bad picks or unlucky outcomes, right? It's about structure. So we all talked about the fact that there is a need for a strategy, or there is a need for logic behind what we're doing. So the key thing is to try and make sure that you separate any kind of variance from the decision that you're going to make, because obviously we know that during any given game week, something can happen that can really pee you off. It's probably better to take a walk. Like with me, I'll take Kano for a walk and I'll moan at one of you guys. I'll rant to you on the phone and then settle down and look back at what kind of decision I'm going to make. But it's not it's not really about, like, we understand that everybody wants to chase points to be better. Like, it's probably at this moment trying to identify players that's going to help stabilize your rank and at least like make sure that you can avoid risk. So yes, we look at upside and things like this, but don't go for upside in such a way that it ends up becoming a temporary endeavor, that it's just a weekly punt. So if you can make sure that that distinction is in place, then you can rebuild without panicking. And that's when you can start climbing without burning out all of your chips. So from here, you just make sure that the strategy is deliberate. So you reduce any exposure to minutes risk, like re-anchor your squad so you've got some baseline performers, right? And then reintroduce upside where you know that the roles and the usage of that player is going to justify it. Because, for instance, if we have an example, we've talked at length about, is Saka a good asset in FPL because he's he was 10.3, he's gone down to 10.1 now, I believe, right? Likewise, everybody is getting excited about Cole Palmer and things like this at 10.4. But the reality of Cole Palmer at 10.4 at the moment is even his manager is saying that he's not fit, that he's still playing with what looks like an injury. So are his minutes going to be managed? Is he really going to have the kind of output that we're expecting for somebody at 10.4? So again, it's just making sure that your rank recovery isn't reactive. You don't just do things based on hope, that you have some structure behind that.
So game week 22, guys. I guess I've got, it's a really interesting week. I guess I'll start on this one, innit? Since I'm talking now. Like, I think this is a very, very interesting game week. I mean, first and foremost, there's 3 derbies on a Saturday, which is interesting, right? The 2 London derbies, and we've got the Manchester derby as well, which is interesting in its own self. But I think the biggest one is Liverpool-Burnley from an FPL standpoint. The big question is, will Ekatike start, right? He's on the bench, obviously, in the FA Cup. You would assume...
Yeah, he assisted as well, I believe.
Yeah, you'd assume that he probably will be starting. So if that's the case, you've got to be thinking about him and the impact that it might have on Liverpool's performance. So that's one to watch. I also think a good game could be the actual London derby, Spurs, West Ham. This has got kind of chaos all over it, right? It's one of those games from an FPL standpoint, looking at thinking this could be like 3-2 West Ham. This could be 4-1 Spurs. Like, it could be anything, right? 2 teams who are under pressure, 2 managers who are under pressure. Both teams don't want to play at home. So on paper, you would think, yeah, Spurs are at home, but actually home performance has been really poor this year. So maybe that pressure of not being at home for West Ham, they might be able to sort of, pull out a performance. So that's a game that I'm looking at as well. And then lastly, I guess it's a Sunday game, Villa, Everton. Villa have been flying still. I know they lost against Arsenal, but by and large been doing really well. Everton got some struggles with no Keane. So yeah, there's the 3 picks.
I don't have any Villa players, but we know they're very strong at home and they're playing at home. So it's an unfortunate one for me because that means I'll probably be looking at the both of you scoring points with Rodgers.
Everton have not been playing too well though, so they're going to want to prove a point. But with Keane getting the red card in the previous game, it'll be interesting. I'm hoping that Villa do their thing. I'm hoping for a cash clean sheet. So yeah, I think the Villa game, Everton is a good one. To be fair, Leeds Fulham, I think that game is going to be a good one. I've been talking about Harry Wilson, so I'm hoping that he continues the form. Leeds, they're doing well. They're going for it. So I see both teams scoring. So, hopefully Harry Wilson's amongst the points for me there. Obviously, you mentioned Burnley and Liverpool, but like I said, I'm stuck between Ekatike against Burnley short term or Thiago coming in long term for me because he's playing in the West London derby. So, he's a man on form right now. And form is important. So if I go Thiago over Ekatike, hopefully Ekatike does F all like he did for me when I had him. But yeah, I think Ekatike is a good captain choice this week. We'll get to captain shortly, but I'm just looking at that game and I'm thinking Ekatike did nothing for me when he's on my team. He's going to be not in my team. Thiago needs to come in. I'm thinking long term now, second half of the season. So I know, take him out, what's he going to go and do to me? He's going to get goals. So like I'm just hoping for Thiago to get enough goals past Chelsea while they've got a new manager settling in to match what Ekatike does, so I don't regret it. That is a one game, and we was talking about long-term signings. But yeah, I think this game week similar to the last one. There's loads of fixtures that you just don't know how it's going to go. I think it's going to be a lot of goals this week. That's what I would say. I don't see loads of clean sheets personally. Yeah, interesting game week.
Yeah, lots of draws. That's what this fixture list looks like to me. Lots of draws. Which makes it even harder to pick a captain, right?
Well, let's get into it. If we're talking captains, I guess, as usual, most people are going to be looking at Haaland. But if you're brave like I was for those 3 weeks in a row when I went against Haaland, it's all about who would you go for? And obviously, it was mentioned just now, Ekatike against Burnley is a good one. I guess that we'll all agree that would be a good person if you're going to go against Haaland. Man U. Haaland always does well against Man U, in my opinion. But a Man U new manager bounce hasn't worked so far. But is it going to work against City in the derby? Who knows? Haaland's been, let's just say, not in the greatest of form. So Ekatike versus Burnley looks appetizing. There's a few others. Who are you thinking of? Who are you thinking of?
Again, Haaland is always the number one choice. Do you know what I mean? He has to be. Man United's defense is pretty ropey. They're one of the worst teams for shots against in the league. So, you know, you give shots to Haaland, he's going to score goals. So, I mean, it's one of those weeks that if you're going to go against Haaland, you're going to be, especially because they're the first game of the week. He goes and licks off. You know, he's been in the whole weekend thinking, oh, what have I done, right? But the Manchester derby is
But you know about that first game of the week thing, though, right? When you captain, you know that if you captain the captain of the first game of the week, you know about that one, innit?
Well,
when it don't go right, you're pissed for the whole rest of the game.
But what I will say is that this Man Manchester derby is a funny one, and Man United are one of these funny teams that and every now and again they just pull out a performance from nowhere. You know, we saw it against Liverpool a couple of years ago, where they managed to sort of like drag themselves into, you know, drawing 2-2 when Liverpool were in their prime and beating them at times. And, you know, that new manager bounce, you know, in that stadium. And like I said, Man U have nothing to play for now other than to ruin Man City's life. That's their cup final right now. Let's be honest. Okay. So there's a small part of me that feels that the passion and the excitement and the energy around the stadium, you know, you don't know, but you have to think Man City on that big pitch are going to get chances. And you're just looking at Haaland against Heaven and, you know, they're sort of defenders. He's going to eat them up alive. But Ekatike Burnley looks like a really good one as well. My only worry with Ekatike is that he is just coming back from an injury. Although he might start, will he finish the game? And if he doesn't score, say after an hour, and Liverpool winning 2-0 or 3-0, and you know somebody scored a goal, he'll get benched. They'll bring on. Do you know what I mean? So I don't think he's going to play the whole 9 minutes. So he doesn't burst in that. He doesn't burst in that first half. I don't see why for Liverpool you're playing the whole game unless you have to, right? You need Ekatike going forward. So if you're winning a game 2 or 3-0 against Burnley, a team that no threat to you, he ain't going to play the whole game. So that's my one concern with Ekatike.
I don't think he will play the whole game anyway. Like if you look at his minutes in general, generally he's up to 70 minutes and they're taking him off. He hasn't really played 90s back to back to back across his career because he's so young, right? So it's the first time that he's having to do it at the moment. And like you said, they have got to manage him going forwards. But we'll see. With him, he needs a lot of shots, right? Like he's a shot volume guy. He's not clinical. So be interesting to see.
My last one I'll say before you come in, I can have your little prediction. The last one I'll go for is Watkins. I think Watkins has been quietly doing bits for a few weeks now. And people are not really talking about him because obviously he was getting benched, for Marlon a few times. But he's quietly got himself back into the sort of number one striker position. And like Hots pointed out, Everton do have issues at the back. They've lost the scream of Gay. They've lost Keane. They haven't got Braithwaite. They're on the road, which haven't been great on. And Villa are in great form. So that's one of those games where Watkins could just have Rogers equally, but Watkins, Rogers is getting more highly owned now. But he, if you're looking for someone to boost up the league, he's one to watch out for, Watkins.
I've got someone here, but I hate him.
Okay.
Don't tell me that don't tell me you're putting Ricardo.
Gyökeres.
No, Gyökeres, I don't hate him. I've always thought he was a very good striker before he came to Arsenal, but he's letting me down. That's something different. But like I do with any player that comes to the league and it's their first time in the Prem, I would say give them a season, so it's not him. But yes, Ark, with a more sensible guess, was right. With Charlton, back. They've got Wolves.
No, West Ham.
If he starts, sorry, the wrong W. They got West Ham, which has been poor, bro. West Ham has been poor. And I just feel that game, West Ham always gives Spurs trouble. But I think if they start with Charlton, I can see him getting a goal, at least. I don't know why. I just fancy him to get a few goals. So I know some people have him in their team, and he'd be an outsider because when I'm going for captaincy choices, I'm looking at the players who are playing weak teams. So usually it's Burnley, Wolves, and West Ham.
But you can send the horses back.
Who's the
Solanke.
I don't know why you call him a horse. That's mad. I've never heard that before. I don't know if that's a me thing. I've never heard him being called that. But that's a major why.
No, he looks like a horse. His face looks like a horse. Anyway. Yeah, go on.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. If he starts and you've got him in your team and you're starting him in your team, I think that he's someone that could be a surprise one. And I won't be surprised if when we do our next episode, we bring this up and he got a goal or two against West Ham. They're poor, man. They're very poor. I feel sorry for West Ham right now because, I have a little soft spot for them being in East London, man. But, yeah, they're just poor right now. And I think Spurs, Frank's under pressure, boy. I think that West Ham's a good team for him to go against and get 3 points. So I think Richarlison will be interesting. Solanke is back. I don't know if he's going to play in the cup games leading up to that. So I guess we'll have to see. But obviously that could hamper that situation. But I don't know how fit he is.
Well, he came off the bench against Villa in the FA Cup. So that's why I mentioned that.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned Watkins. And obviously I said Rogers. But don't forget, Arsenal's playing Nottingham Forest. We're 6 points clear. We need to continue winning games and maintaining that. And I actually believe Saka will be a good captain this week. I think he's due. And yes, it's a bit of he's in my team. I'll hold my hands up. But he's due. And sometimes what we've learned from the players that are due, they're going to do it eventually. And I think that this could be the week when Saka gets off a couple of goals. So I think that he's an interesting one for me as well. I'm just not sure if I will go against Haaland personally. I probably won't. But if I do go against Haaland, for me, and the team that I've got, I might try Slide on Saka depending on who plays in the next cup game for Arsenal. Because I'm still trying to go against Haaland, if I'm honest. I just don't know if this is the game week to do it.
Fair enough. I suppose I've looked at a wild pick for me this week, simply because everybody knows my thoughts on the guys from up north, Newcastle, the travellers extraordinaire.
Passion.
So one of the reasons why I've looked at their fixture is more about just attacking the fixture and the opponent that they're playing. I know that Wolves are coming to a little form, but the reality is the profile of their defence and where they concede kind of suits Newcastle. They concede a lot of entries into their final third on the left-hand side. I think they've conceded like 50-odd big chances on that side, and probably half the same amount on the right side, which is poor for me because that means that Gordon won't necessarily have as much joy as I would hope. But what it does mean is that profile allows, they do concede a lot of shots in the box from his side. It means that he'll do a lot of ball carrying and probably draw some fouls in dangerous areas, which is good. But they do concede a lot centrally as well, which means Bruno Guimaraes comes into the mix as well. I can't remember offhand, it's Barnes that they've got playing on the right at the moment, right? Or is Murphy still in the mix?
Or they did Gordon left, Barnes to right. But they like to rotate, which is obviously one of the things you mentioned that's a concern for you with Gordon. But what I believe is, if you've got Gordon, he's a very good shout. Captaincy. I think they will do Barnes and Gordon again.
Yeah.
So I think it's a fixture. I don't know how, obviously, we're all talking about alternatives to Haaland. We've provided so many, and we all might go Haaland, let's face it. But there's so many alternatives this week. But talking about Newcastle, which is a fixture I didn't mention, against Wolves, which was the other W that I mixed up. If Wissa starts, because I rate Wissa, the Wissa starts, I think he's a good captain choice, but you just don't know who's starting in Newcastle.
Yeah, that's the problem with their strikers, because Wissa and Voltamade will nick minutes off of each other. I can't imagine that either one of them will finish a game this season. One will either come on from the 65th, 70th minute, or they'll be on. So, yeah, it's a difficult one, even though, as you guys know, I talked about Wissa to begin with at the start of the season. I really would like to bring him in. But, for his price, there'd be no value in it because I've got no guaranteed minutes out of him for that. And, for instance, Thiago.
Yeah, it's not rotation.
Yeah, Thiago is the same money and he's scoring goals. Right, so...
guaranteed star.
Yeah. So, but going back to the point, I think that Newcastle will have opportunities against Wolves, but my problem is this is where Newcastle are playing away, right?
Correct.
And we all know what I think about Newcastle playing away. 5 miles limit.
But the opponents are not. The opponents ain't really getting ratings from me, if I'm being honest.
I understand.
Mane's had a bit of form recently, but I think Newcastle have to win this game too. This game week, for me,
yep.
I think the teams that need to win, so I think there's going to be loads of goals, not many clean sheets, and the teams that need to win, most of them will win, except for in the derbies. So like Newcastle, Wolves, I just think Wolves are going to win. But in the games like Chelsea, Brentford, that's where I think there might be a little surprise.
You just said that Wolves are going to win.
No, I said with Newcastle and Wolves, it's just like Newcastle, just a standard, isn't it? Yeah, it's like a standard. Newcastle just going to get that victory. But in the derbies, like Chelsea and Brentford, I said that I think Brentford will win.
Okay, let me see.
And people would have. I think the derbies are going to be more tricky. There's going to be goals from most teams, but the derbies are going to be the ones where it's a bit tricky. I see Brentford beating Chelsea, put it that way. United, With City, is Haaland's not hitting right now, and you made a good point, Guffs. Yeah, but I'm just not sure about this new Fletcher and all of that. It's mental. Like I don't know what he's gonna do.
Haven't they just brought in Carrick?
I think he's going to be announced.
Yeah, I think they just brought him in. It'd be interesting to hear from any kind of Middlesbrough supporters. They can give us an idea of what his style is.
Carrick, I'm not saying he'll be a good manager because I don't know, but I think he'll be actually. I think he'll do a decent job personally, but Man U are a mess if I'm honest, isn't it? So like, it's more about City. Is Haaland not gonna get? Because he's going to click at some point, but I still think this is a game where you'll either click and it's going to be a madness, or he's going to not do nothing. So I know it's a hard one. I'm scared to go against him. I really want to go Saka, but I just don't think I can.
Personally, I won't be going against him, but that's because of my strategy.
Yeah, I don't think I can go against him realistic.
Yeah.
I don't think no one will. I don't think no one will, if I'm honest.
I'm going against him.
People of Ekatike, I was about to say, the people of Ekatike will going to play it. Let me just cut to the chase. Ekatike's out my team, innit? F it. I'm spilling the beans. I took Ekatike out and I put Thiago back, knowing that he might be outscored by Ekatike this week, but I just couldn't take it no more. It's the second half of the season and I'm like, you know what? I can't watch Thiago just keep going up. And I'm stuck with this idiot that I've had in my team that didn't do nothing against the easy fixtures. I rate Ekatike.
Earlier, kind of let us know that yes, he's out of your team.
Yeah, but I rather just say it myself in the same episode, so it's I that told you.
I'm going against Haaland.
Yeah, it makes sense because you got Ekatike.
No, I haven't got Ekatike either. Took my last week.
Oh, but you're still going against Haaland, yeah?
I'm going Rodgers.
That's a good one.
I'm going Rodgers.
I actually rate that move.
That's what I'm going with this week.
I don't even mind if it pays off. No disrespect in our positions in the league. But I actually don't mind if that pays off because I've got Rodgers.
That's what I'm going with this week.
So I'll actually take that. Because if Haaland doesn't do much and Haaland outscores him, you'll have a good week, you can be hosted for once, and I'll get the points from Rodgers. So I'm cool with that. You get me? I think we'll leave it at that, though, man. Let's just leave it at that, though. You know the captains. You get me? These smiles. Man like Guffs.
This guy, bro.
One last jab.
Bro.
You get me?
You know what I mean?
No matter, man. It will happen for you, man. It will happen. Rodgers was coming through. I want him to. That's the sincere one. I don't care.
What?
If I got Haaland,
I said at the start of the show, there's no point me going safe at this point. Do you know what I mean? There's no point. Like,
I agree.
And, you know, I need to start making inroads, and there's no point me waiting. Oh, go. No. Now's the time to take action. Now's the time to make moves. So Rodgers, who still is quite lowly owned, given the player he is, quite frankly, I don't even see it as an opportunity because I do think Haaland is probably the best pick, really, if I'm being honest. But I'm banking on just sort of it being a passionate Manchester derby, and maybe
2-1.
Maybe City, it just doesn't work out for him. Do you mean? So, you know, and Haaland isn't in great form right now as well. So, yeah, I'm going Rodgers.
I forgot you took out Ekatike because that would have been the guy. But obviously, you took him out the week before. Me, realistically, I should have kept him, but I just said, you know what, long term, Thiago needs to come back to my team before he gets too much money and he's not worth it for me.
I'll be honest with you. I contemplated busting the wild card, like yourself. I contemplated it because I looked at this week's fixtures and I thought to myself, you know, to go with the theme of the show, right, in terms of like, you know, how managers think. I looked at it and thought, you know, this might be an opportunity to kind of get a jump, right? And if I load up on some of the favourable assets this game week, I mean, there are a few teams who we've mentioned in the show got some good runs coming up. Chelsea, Villa have got a decent run of games as well. So, you know, but I've opted against that and I thought, you know what, I'm going to just go with Rodgers and that's going to be my little sort of, you know, against the grain move this week, and I'll hold the wild card for now. We'll see how it pans out. You know what I mean? We'll see.
I'll say one more giveaway. There's no minuses this week so far. So I'm on best behavior again. But I'm still itching like every week. Because there's one more move I want to make, but I just don't want to take the minus. And it always goes against me when I don't, so I'm tempted to do it. But
the question is, what's the professor going to do? Because I know that the professor doesn't like making minuses. You know, you spoke a lot about, you know, I've got to change up certain. My base of my team isn't really clicking right now. We doing minuses? What we doing? We getting our big boy pants on, or what's happening?
You see, this is what's upsetting. I mean, I've had this guy questioning my testicular fortitude. So, I've now got you talking to me about wearing big boy pants. Like, where did it all go wrong? No, from my perspective, I think I am rolling so that I've got 2 and I can maneuver next week. I can't see anybody that is screaming enough at me to make a move now. If I was going to make a move, it would be for someone in that Newcastle Wolves game.
What I'm going to say, and it's going to be my last thing I say.
Well, if you damn my
now playing again. I'm now playing for the future of the second half of the season. So anything I do now is what I plan on long term. So you might see moves and think, huh? Like taking out a Katika against Burnley. I don't care about all that. It's long term. So that's what my transfers are going to be, whether they're minuses or not. So it's going to be interesting times ahead. I think the games begin now. So yeah, game week 22.
But yeah, listen, people, I'm interested to hear your takes on sort of where you are in your leagues. You know, we want to hear your feedback. We want to hear your thoughts and views on, you know, wildcard discussions. Is now the time to play the wildcard? Should you wait until the end of January? You know, comments in and let me know your feedback and you know, understand where you guys are at, because, you know, this interaction is a two-way thing, right? You know, we give our opinions. We try to kind of steer you in the best way to sort of move forward, but, you know, maybe you got a different view. So I'm interested to sort of hear your views.
Yeah, top 2 in the league has got a different view. Gonna win, played his wild card.
Wow, there you go.
And it was interesting because I think he only scored 35 off the back of it.
This is what happens. These chips and this part of the season, like I said, is vital. It's vital. It'll be interesting to see where everyone finishes up by the end of it. But yeah.
So, truth be told, yeah?
Truth be told. Like, subscribe, people. Do your thing.
Truth be told.